Welcome along to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith, joined by Lee Clark again. Hiya, Lee. How are you?
Good, Steve. How are you?
Aye, not bad, mate. Relieved, I think, is probably the word that, I haven't been asked the question I've been asked for the last 17 weeks is, any news or is it any closer? It's not the result we wanted. Obviously, the takeover, come to a grinding halt last week. But, I just feel because there's no ticking clock anymore, we can concentrate on, the start of the new season. We can concentrate on the transfer window. At least we know where we're at going into the season. And Steve Bruce does as well,
Yeah, I think everyone wanted some kind of end result. And as you say, it's not the end result we were hoping for. In fact, it's the opposite of what we're hoping for. But it just means that there's clarity now in terms of what the manager's got to go out and do, what market he's shopping in, because he's probably already spoke to Mike Ashley and Lee Charnley with regards to his budget if they were still in charge. I mean, that's the interesting one, isn't it? Because Mike wasn't actually a big spender when he was totally committed to the club, and now he was nearly selling up. You wouldn't have thought that he's going to be looking to pump a lot of money into the squad in terms of combined players' salaries and transfer fees. I know when Mike usually talks of a war chest, what he's given the manager, he includes all those type of things in it. So if he mentioned he's going to give the manager 50 million, that's not just going out and spending 50 million on players or transfer fees. That includes the salaries, etc., which they don't come cheap per year for a Premier League footballer nowadays as well. So it'd be interesting to see what the club can do. I hope they can do something to a level where they can improve the squad. So I felt the players in January didn't actually improve the squad, the loan signings. I didn't think they were any better than what we had. And they certainly in their performances didn't improve on what we had. So I think if the signings we bring in have to be lads who are going to go straight into the starting 11 and make it better, really, and raise the standards of the group so we can have a realistic chance of getting in the top 10. I know we had a little spell about 4 or 5 weeks from the end of the season. If we got a couple of results, we could have got into the top 10. But we want to be going there where we give ourselves a real good opportunity of getting there, and that means there's got to be some kind of quality added to the squad.
We all know where we were on certain days in life, when, for example, John Lennon was shot dead or Kennedy was shot dead, if you're a bit older. Where were you when you heard that the takeover was off?
I was sitting in front of the TV watching Sky Sports and seeing the yellow ticker and seeing the breaking news. So at first it was devastation, do you know what I mean? But as you said, over the last few days, that's gone into a bit of a realism that we've got clarity one way or the other, I don't know where we stand with the potential of the American guy coming in, or where he's at. Is he interested, or is it just a little bit of pie in the sky from him? I don't know. I've tried to look about and find out, and I think there's been 1 or 2 press releases saying that Mike's given him a, pay up or shut up type of ultimatum to basically come to the table. Now the club's still up for sale. He knows what the deal is and come up with his own funds. But I don't know what he's actually like in his own personal wealth, or if he's having to bring people in. If he does get successful, at least with the Saudis and the people who were involved, the Reuben brothers and Amanda Staveley, we knew that they had substantial wealth behind them as well. Not only could they afford to buy the club, they could afford to take it forward in every aspect in terms of the team and the infrastructure, but not too sure with any other people who are out there.
So we take a positive from this. I mean, I certainly have, that Mike Ashley wants to sell the club, Lee. I mean, it's something that the fans have been singing for numerous years yet now. The relationship between Mike Ashley and the fans really broke down when Kevin Keegan left the club. But, I suppose this at least confirms, this wasn't a fake takeover attempt. This was a genuine attempt to buy the club. It looks as if it's fell through, more to do with the politics around it and, things which didn't really have anything to do with football. But it shows you that Mike Ashley does want to leave St James's Park.
Yeah, he's prepared to sell. And in all fairness to Mike, this deal hasn't broken down because of him.
Yeah.
This deal's broken down. It's gone beyond him. He took the non-refundable deposit. The club, the sale had been agreed. All the figures had been done. There was no obstacles that side. I think the obstacles, and the truth will always come out eventually. we've heard certain rumours since it's broke down that there was other Premier League clubs involved and weren't happy with the situation, or this, that, and the other. So we've had all the kinds of rumours that you usually get. But certainly, I don't think this breakdown was anything to do with Mike Ashley, to be fair to him. So I think that's a real positive, like you say, that he's shown that he's prepared for the right offer. He's prepared to let the club go and let someone else take over the run of it. So that's obviously worked. The supporters don't have to worry about that anymore. I don't think we can, they cannot push all that effort into trying to get him to spend more money. I don't think that'll happen. I don't think was ever going to happen during his reign. It certainly ain't going to happen now, where he's going to spend substantial amounts, or it would be one of the craziest moves he's ever done when he's decided to sell it, and he goes and spends more money than he ever has. So, like you say, take the positives. Hopefully something can be resurrected, or someone else, as I said, a new buyer, a new potential investor, a new owner of the club. Surely people who have, high net worth, it can see the potential that Newcastle United can give them, and what they can do as well. They can also grow the club in many aspects. They can grow the club in a position that it on the field in terms of where it finishes in the league. They can get it into Europe. The merchandise can go completely through the roof, because that's probably not hit even 20% in terms of the capacity that it can get to. And obviously, if you become successful, there's the opportunity to extend the stadium and get more supporters in, which would not be very difficult if the team was being successful again, I've got to say.
Yeah, I mean, during the breakdown news came a statement. George Falcon, Amanda Staveley, obviously, she put out her point of view as to why things had broken down, and her husband, my dad, tweeted, and so did Jamie Rubin. Again, I think that's another positive in the sense that they came out and at least they finally broke cover, if you like, once the PIF had pulled away from the deal. That we'll give it our best shot, but at this moment it just hasn't been good enough. So from our perspective, again, it showed that the takeover was real, because I think a lot of us just constantly disbelieved these. I know you did. We've said many times on this show, we'd only believe a takeover would go through when we see Amanda Staveley standing on the pitch holding a scarf up. You know what I mean? You proved to be right, but again, I took a bit of confidence from the fact, what they were saying, and it did, it was, maybe it just wasn't to be.
Yeah, Steve, for me, all those doubts were taken away, and for whatever reasons, when it's got to the final hurdle, i.e. the Premier League and the FA, it hasn't been overcome that final hurdle. Now, I know they said that they needed clarity on who was actually going to be heading the football club, and meaning what I'm assuming the meaning who was going to take the seat as being the chairman, and how the board was going to be structured. So they didn't have a lot of clarity on that. But I mean, I'll be disappointed if something is, small as that, when there's successful business people involved in a huge transaction, was going to be the give us the downfall of the takeover. So there's lots of things that you can be positive about. I know it's difficult for Newcastle fans at the moment, because we'll be thinking it's going to be another summer transfer window with Mike in charge, and what he's done in the past doesn't fill you full of confidence. But we just got to be ready, and hopefully, because it's such a short turnaround as well for the new season to start. The injuries were picked up towards the end of the season as well. Hopefully they've cleared up, because like me and you said a couple of weeks ago, we don't want to start the season poorly, because you find it very, very difficult after you do that to try and get some momentum to get out of that relegation area. So it's important that we dust ourselves down. We don't want to start the season certainly the way we finished it, and that was obviously caused by some injuries to important players. So we've got to get it right. We've got to get those players that were injured as fit as quickly and safely as possible, and hopefully for the start of the new season, as I said, short turnaround, but also get some quality new signings in if possible.
The fans have come out and reacted to the collapse of the takeover by, setting away a petition. I think that the target, is £100,000, is 100,000 signatures. I'm not sure whether they've hit that yet, but good luck to them with it. And I've signed it. I know, certain players who can, because they're not contracted to the likes of Sky or the Premier League or whatever. I know they've come out and supported it and signed it as well. Again, a lot of the supportive groups as well, who've probably been at each other's throats over the years, have all come together, which again is positive to come from the takeover. Fans have often been divided, but they've all seemed to come together under the same roof for this league, which is a positive again.
100%, Steve. I mean, I've actually signed the petition myself as well, so I want to try and help Newcastle fans get answers and get some clarity on what's happened. But like you said, in the past, the different various different groups, supporters groups that support and represent the club, being a little bit at loggerheads sometimes with each other. And this time they've all come together as one, so that's a good thing to take. That could maybe change the way they all go forward. For the rest of the time now, and that would be a real positive if there can be a unity amongst all those different groups, without a doubt. So, no, we are where we are. We've got to try and make the best of it, and hopefully now people know that Mike's a serious seller, because I think in the past they might have doubted that. You'll get more people who will show an interest and try and take the club forward.
Yeah, we're talking about transfers. Obviously, the transfer window is open. The latest names to be linked with Newcastle over the last 24 hours. James Milner, potential return to Newcastle, has been mooted. Zaha, of course, certainly looking to get away from Palace. Are those kind of names credible? Do you think that they're the kind of players that we could see coming in? Or Callum Wilson, again, relegated with Bournemouth. Potentially, we are looking for a striker. You hope we're looking for a striker. David Brooks is another one at Bournemouth who's been linked. And, outside bets, Gareth Bale. I think we've had work day with that one now until the takeover does go through. But are any of those names realistically?
Well, I certainly think Callum Wilson is, and I think he'd be an excellent signing for Newcastle. He has a real good goal scoring record in a team that, let's face it, was in a similar sort of scenario to Newcastle, fighting in that area of the Premier League, but still had a good goal ratio. He's a full England international. I've managed against him before. I've come up against him. He has real good assets. He has a willingness to run in behind. He has real good pace. He's strong. And he's a good finisher with both feet and in the air. So certainly, the thing is with Bournemouth, that they have quite a wealthy owner, a Russian owner, so that they'll not be in a position where you can hold them to ransom and get their players for cheap. But, he is certainly a player that we should be in the market for. I would love to see a James Milner come back. I was lucky enough when I was on the coaching staff to work with him, and I seen what an unbelievable professional he was, and the success he's had at both Manchester City and Liverpool hasn't surprised me at all. And if ever there's an example to young players about why players are successful and become winners, it's James Milner. Attitude, I've never seen any better. I've never seen a player with a better attitude. He's every single day would do extra training work, whether it was just extra fitness running, sprints, taking of set players, because he was a set player taker, shooting, passing. Every single day he wanted to stay behind with either myself or someone else, one of the coaching team, to do some sessions with him. And I would find it, I wouldn't like to think Klopp would want to let him go. He's probably not going to be, a player who's played every week in, week out, but I think he's such an inspirational character in the dressing room as well, and the experience he has. I think Klopp will want that around the place, and I think I wouldn't even be surprised if there was an opportunity for James to stay on at Liverpool in a coaching capacity as well further down the line. But he's certainly someone that I would like to see. The Zaha one's a bit different. I think, Palace will ask for big money. For me, we have to prioritise where we're going to spend our money, the limited money we'll have. And I totally agree with you. Striker has to be a priority for us. And with the injury situation we have at central defence, probably there. I think the spine of the team, another central midfield player, because as me and you've talked about, Bentaleb for me hasn't been the answer. And if young Matty does move on, you know, we're going to be short there as well. So the spine of the team is crucial. But for me, if there was only enough money for one player, it has to be a striker, because, you know, they're the difference between you obviously winning and losing games.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big call this summer, and you know, unless Joe Linton comes back a different player next season, you know, it leaves were options, you know, limited. Andy Carroll, you know, didn't score last season, you know, created a couple of assists, and when crowds were allowed in St James's Park, he helped change the atmosphere, change games, and you know, he was beneficial to that degree. But you know, for me, you know, he needed to score goals and he didn't. Dwight Gale, though, you know, we seemed to get him back to full fitness by the end of the season, and he proved his worth in those few remaining games that we had after lockdown.
No, yeah, I think Dwight was one of the few players after lockdown who took his opportunity and maybe, you know, showed a few of the doubters who think he maybe couldn't cut it at the Premier League. He was more of a championship striker. But he come in and he was consistent. He's got a tremendous work ethic. And he's got good movement. But what he's added now in the last few weeks, he's got a run of consistency in terms of scoring goals. So hopefully he'll come back in the short turnaround full of confidence from a personal point of view. I mean, I'm like you. I hope there is a turnaround. You want that in any player, like with Joe Linton, but I just personally cannot see it. I think it's just been it's been an actual decline, and it's got actually worse rather than better. Sometimes, you know, I've always said this: players will struggle, but when you're a teammate or you're a manager or a coach, you see stuff on the training ground, you think, well, he's certainly got something. So I'm wondering if that's the case on the training ground. He's showing stuff that maybe he's not replicating in a match. And the players in the management and the players are sticking by him because of that. Because I've got to say, I've never really seen a lot of things in the match that have excited us about him and to make us think that he's going to be a top Premier League striker. So we just have to wait and see. I mean, even if Steve want to try and use him to raise some funds to buy another player like me, and you've talked about in the past as well, I'm not too sure how much he'd fetch in the open transfer market. I don't think he'd fetch a lot, certainly nowhere near the amount of money we paid for him.
Yeah. I want to really finish the second half of the show with a look back over the season, Lee, with you. You know, we had a stop-start season, obviously because of the pandemic, but we managed to see the season out. So let's start with player of the season first of all. You know, who was your player of the season for Newcastle United?
Well, obviously the goalkeeper probably takes the award for me, Dubravka. I think he was outstanding again. There was one or two errors, but you'll get that with goalkeepers. You know, they're in such a difficult position. I think it's probably the best and the most consistent we've seen from John Joe Shelby since he's been at the club. For whatever reason, I think whether when it was Steve giving the armband when Jamel Lascelles wasn't around, that gave him extra motivation and made him, you know, responsibility as the captain. Newcastle United couldn't do some of the silly things he'd done previously, especially some of the things he'd done when he was playing under Rafa, when he, for example, when he got the silly send-off down at Nottingham Forest and stuff like that. So I think he showed a lot more consistency. His goals returns been decent. I mean, difficult after that. I mean, Almiron, St Maxim, exciting player. I love him. Great. You know, is he starting to get a bit frustrated because he's probably the one that we look to all the time rather than have other potential match winners as well with him? That's the worry for me, including this transfer window. He'll have caught lots of people's attention. You know, the way he's played. He showed a great work ethic as well. And I like Almiron. I think he showed a fantastic attitude even when things don't go his way. He still works. Like I was saying to you before, an example is you still see some shoots of ability there. He goes past people. He does things direct, and you know, sometimes his final ball mightn't be right, but at least you've got something to work with him. So I think there's a handful of players. But for me, you'd probably be shortlisting Dubravka is the keeper and St. Maxim is the outfield player. They'd be the two that you'd be looking at to be the standout players of the season.
Best signing?
In the season just gone?
In the season just gone, yeah.
Yeah, I think St. Maxim has to be the one. I think he's the shining light. He gets you on the edge of your seat. I like his character as well. He seems to be a bit of a flamboyant character. So, yeah, I think he has to be the one.
Best game of the season?
Oh, best game of the season. Well, obviously, I wasn't there, but I think the win down at Tottenham early in the season was a massive result for everybody to go there. You know, their brand new stadium at the time, and Pochettino still in charge, and you know, the highly thought of squad at Spurs. So I think to go there, you know, we'd had a little bit of we're a slow burn as the start of the season, but we went down there and got a terrific result. I'm trying to think of any of the home games. Obviously, you know, the wins we got against, was it Chelsea, and the wins it got Man City. So they stand out, but I'd say for performance-wise, the Spurs game.
Yeah, I would say that or the Bournemouth game. The Bournemouth game was a really good performance as well. I would say, you know, like through the season. Goal of the season? Is there a goal that stands out?
Trying to think. Nothing really that's standing out. As you said, that Bournemouth game, I thought we scored some excellent goals in that result. The four goals there. I think Almiron scored a good goal, and you know, the Lazaro, and you know, there was some good goals and shown. So I think, you know, is there a thunderbolt that stands out? Did Shelby score a free kick in one of the home games?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. I mean, Matty Longstaff's maybe for the fact that it was a winning goal as well. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't.
Yes.
It was just a great goal, wasn't it? You know what I mean? Because of what it was as well.
It was that long ago. I didn't realise it was this season. It was that long ago. I thought it was the season before. It seems like it was ages ago.
Yeah, I know what you mean, mate. It's just the way it's dragged on, isn't it? It's the way it's dragged on. But yeah, I mean, I think the last question really for this roundup really is you know, was the season a success?
For me, Steve, it isn't. I get frustrated, you know, because I don't want to see we're just celebrating finishing off 13th or 14th. It's difficult because obviously the managers, past and present, under Mike's regime, have always had to deal with that because of the lack of investment into the squad. I'd probably say it has been, because I think, you know, the feeling amongst the supporters at the start of the season, they'd lost a manager who absolutely adored. Steve wasn't someone that they would have been their choice as the new manager. So there was that to put up with. Obviously the ill feeling between the supporters and the ownership. And then obviously what happened with COVID, for us not to be really, I don't think at any stage we're really involved in that relegation battle. We're never going to get sucked into it. Means that you stay in the league once again, which probably, I think a lot of fans, even loyal fans, might have thought that we could have got dragged into that. So I don't want to say it's a success, because I want to see the club competing in the top 10. I want to see them trying to challenge and make things happen, you know. But from a point of view is that where we've been in the last few seasons, it's just mirrored that. So it means that we're stabilised, but I want us to be more ambitious and try and get better.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And Steve Bruce, I mean, you know, I know the players, yourself included, know Steve quite well, and, you know, big supporters of him. It's been a success for Steve, hasn't it? Because, you know, as we say at the start of the season, you know, he came up against a huge, you know, wave of, you know, anti-feeling towards him, especially not necessarily against him, just because Rafa had left. And we've had this constant comparison between him and Rafa.
Well, I was just going to bring that up, Steve. That's done my absolute head in all season, you know. Every stage of the season, Steve's got more points than Rafa, or Rafa had more points at this stage. You know, you cannot work your football club on that. And that hasn't just been from fans, that's been from the media as well, which has been disappointing. Yeah. You don't do that. And it's continued right up until the last game. You know, it was like, oh, Steve wins one more game from the last three, he'll end up with a better points total than what Rafa had the season before. No two seasons are the same for various different reasons. You know, you kind of compare things like that. You crack on with what you've got, and that's been a huge bugbear of me this season, just having to listen to all that nonsense that was getting spouted about from both sides. You know, Rafa, everyone knows he's a top manager. He's proved it. He's won titles. He's won the big trophies. He's managed huge clubs. You know, and we should have tried doing more to keep him. But he moved on. He's went and, you know, elsewhere in his career. He's made his own career path. Got no doubt he'll be back in English football. But, you know, we had to get a manager in. And, you know, as I've said at the time, any Geordie who's involved in management gets the opportunity to manage Newcastle United, doesn't matter who the owner is, would find it very, very difficult to turn that offer down. And Steve didn't. And he's kept the club in the Premier League. As I said, it doesn't sit well with me that we're celebrating. I mean, the thing I say, Steve, as well, is there'll be a huge portion of Newcastle fans who've only experienced the Mike Ashley era. They haven't experienced before that. And so they'll only know that type of finish. So they will celebrate it. There'll be lots of people who celebrate it because, you know, without the exception of the one time, I think we finished 5th under Alan Pardew. Yeah. That's been round about where we've been. So, you know, they will celebrate it, but we need to be better than that, because if you keep aiming for those positions, you'll come unstuck like we have twice under his tenure and end up getting relegated.
Yeah. Moving away from something which is not necessarily just about Newcastle, VAR made its debut in the last season, Lee. Success or failure?
For me, probably bordering on failure at the moment. I don't think it's being used properly. I don't think we've allowed the referees to go to the monitor themselves and decide. And one of the big incidents that's proved crucial was the no-goal that Sheffield United never got against Aston Villa after lockdown, when the keeper easily took it over the line. The goal line technology never worked. But surely VAR seen what we were seeing on the replays and on the cameras, and they could have intervened to help, you know, obviously the referee out, because, you know, Sheffield United win that game, you know, Villa don't get that point. That could have made a hell of a difference come the end of the season. I'm not saying that's the reason Bournemouth went down and Villa stayed up, but surely VAR's in that position, and we've seen the same footage. Because I remember seeing it at the time, even seeing it live, and you could see the goalkeeper took the ball behind the post. He had it pushed on the back of the post, and then every angle he's seen it at, it was clearly over the line. And you knew there'd been an error with the goal line technology. So surely VAR should step in then. That's a big, big decision. But there's been other instances as well where the time scale has been crazy. Some of the time that it's took to make a decision, you know, and very often, and for my dislike is the referees haven't went and looked at the monitor themselves alongside VAR to make that decision. They've let the guys at Stockley Park make the decision for them.
Yeah. For me, it's been a complete failure. And like you say, I mean, Bournemouth have a right to at least appeal against that. I mean, they might get a financial recompense or something like that. But, you know, of all the teams to go down, I did feel sorry for Bournemouth because, you know, I like Eddie Howe. It's always nice to see, you know, young, fresh-faced coaches coming through. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, you've experience being a manager and a coach at clubs, mate. And it's just nice to see, you know. I tell you, getting away from the VAR thing, I was actually the FA Cup semi-finals. Of course, Newcastle got knocked out at the quarter-final stage, and well done for them for getting to that stage and Bruce getting with that. But to get into the semi-finals, it was actually, if you noticed, obviously with the exception of Pep Guardiola in the semis, the other three teams all had relatively new managers or coaches for that team. It was, and of course, the cup final was between Lampard and Arteta. I just think it was refreshing for the game to see new managers coming through and not being the same old faces. And it wasn't a bad cup final either.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get the opportunity to watch the game Saturday, but seeing the highlights and the goals, and it was refreshing. It's good when, you know, there's different teams involved, and obviously two new managers to the Premier League. And, you know, Arteta's just shown that he's obviously learned off the master. He's only been in the job 6 months. He picks up his first trophy. I think if he's given any kind of financial backing, you could potentially see Arsenal rising again in terms of the league programme, etc. Obviously, Frank has done a great job at Chelsea also with his qualification for Champions League and getting them to a cup final. He'd be disappointed because he's obviously used to winning in the big games. He'd be disappointed that they lose that one. But yeah, you know, exciting. And like you said, Solskjaer was involved in the other semi-finalists. I just think it is good. It's, you know, makes the league a bit exciting. I think the Man United are starting to get back, and if they do get a Sancho in the building, you'd think they're going to be up there challenging again. So that top end of the league's getting very, very strong now again.
Yeah, it is, definitely. Some of the rule changes that came in after Project Restart, looks as if we're going to be stuck with them, the substitutes, etc. Do you agree with that, Lee?
I'm not too fussed on the 5 subs. I think that could be good. I think as a managerial point of view, it'll ease the burden on the players' game time they get, and especially because it's such a short turnaround. So, you know, it'll stop you picking up, or should stop you picking up, numerous injuries. I hope that the drinks break gets knocked on the head. I hope that was just a one-off because of the period of time that they had was so short. I didn't agree with that, the drinks break. You know, it halfway through each half. But the 5 subs, all that'll happen though sometimes is the big boys will benefit from that again, won't they? Because if you're thinking Man City could bring 5 world-class players on, and at the moment, if we're looking at Newcastle United squad, where you look at the last few games where we had 2 or 3 untried youngsters, Steve's hands a little bit tied, a bit limited, isn't it? And what he can bring off the bench. And like we said at the start, are they any better than what the starting 11 is? The likes of Man City and Liverpool, those players have got on the bench are of the same level of the players that are on the pitch. So those big boys will get stronger, that's for sure.
New rule coming in as well. Footballers are going to face the prospect of being shown a straight red card if they're caught deliberately coughing at an opponent or a match official. You know, this is a COVID law that's coming in.
Yeah, well, I'd be disappointed if any of the players were doing that in any way, to be honest with you, Steve. If they were doing that, and certainly in the climate we're in at the moment, you'd be very disappointed in players who are in the public eye were doing any stupidity like that. So, you know, people might say, well, what a daft rule, but you would expect that to be the norm. You wouldn't expect them to behave in that way without a doubt, you know.
Definitely not. Getting back to the football side of things with Newcastle United, obviously you've already mentioned, you know, it's going to be quite a quick turnaround, Lee. I mean, you know, how does Steve Bruce prepare for that? I mean, we already have a few injuries which are probably unlikely to see, you know, maybe Lascelles in particular coming back from, you know, from this injury for pre-season, because pre-season is this month, and then we're into the start of the season on the 12th of September. So how is he going to be able to prepare differently for this, do you think?
It's going to be difficult, Steve. You haven't got that period of time, as you said. I've seen an article where Newcastle lads are back 2 weeks today, the 17th of August for pre-season. So they probably only had a 3-week break, and then the season starts up on the 12th, which is, you know, just over 3 weeks. You know, you usually get a 6-week pre-season program into the players in terms of the fitness that they need, and some games, and, you know, a training camp away to gel in the new players that you've signed. So it's all going to be completely different. It's going to be, you know, you're going to be squeezing the type of work that you're in a short period of time. But what you have to do then as well is be aware of the injury situation. You cannot do too much with the players too quickly, because you don't want them picking up injuries. Like we said, we ain't got the biggest of squads to start with. So, you know, that'll be a huge concern for Steve and his staff and the medical team at Newcastle, is the type of work they go into. And to be honest, most of the players now, if not all of them, they look after themselves even in the off season. You know, they keep themselves ticking over. So, and it's not too long ago since they stopped playing. So, but you just worry about, will they get the necessary fitness levels into them that can last them the season? You know, that's the concern, and picking up injuries. because, as I said, we don't want to have a disappointing start of the season, because you find it very difficult after that.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's a strange situation to be in, as you say, coming into a season so quickly after the last one's finished, and we just got to hope that the transfer budget is slightly more. And Steve Bruce talked about it potentially being revised. Let's hope it is. Want to talk about, we're obviously pre-recording this, surely, and today is actually Ozzy Ardiles' birthday. And of course, Ozzy was your boss at Newcastle United. Tell us a little bit about Ozzy and what he was like.
He was a fantastic manager for us young players. He gave us great freedom, great belief in that him, the manager, believed in us. The way he got us from the youth team into the first team, 7 or 8 of us all together. It was a difficult period for the club in terms of financial terms. But, he showed a lot of faith in those young lads who eventually went on to be important players under the Kevin Keegan and entertainers era. And then when we did move on, we moved on for substantial amounts of money, nowhere anywhere near the figures that get mentioned nowadays. But in the terms of when we were playing, it was still good money to get for us. So, but he was just a superb guy. He was a World Cup winner. He joined in training. He was still one of the best players. One of the things, we weren't allowed to call him Gaffer or boss, we had to just call him Ozzy. And obviously in his broken English, we would have some good fun with him. I remember one game at Barnsley where he said, "Pity Betty Bubbly," and I basically looked at him and he was like, "You not understand English, Clarky?" So in his broken Argentinian accent, so I still keep in touch with him. I better send him a message. I didn't realise it was his birthday, because he'll be giving us some stick that I haven't sent him a message. So I better send him one after this.
Yeah, I mean, it's just great memories of Ozzy Ardiles, and it was wasn't meant to be. It was unfortunate the way he left, but he's always remembered for giving youth a chance, Lee, which I know is something that stuck with you in your managerial career.
Steve, listen, I can't really remember the fans as well turned against him. Obviously they were very disappointed with the results were going, and they were getting a bit concerned. And I think the board were probably done the right thing to bring Kevin in and galvanise the club. But the fans, when we were playing, we never felt that the fans were turning against the manager. They understood that he was playing such a young team, and they could see that there was some promising and exciting young players. We just would lack a bit of, of nous and experience. And because we all got put in together, there was only a couple of senior lads left in the group. So, what we've always got to remember is Ozzy Ardiles loaned Newcastle United the transfer fee for David Kelly on an interest-free basis. So for us to buy David Kelly at that time, which we ended up doing, and David become a great fans' favourite and played a massive part in the club getting promoted, that was down to Ozzy stumping up the money of his own money in an interest-free loan to the club, which was obviously repaid back to him. So that should always show you that he was totally committed to the club. I know he was absolutely gutted when he got relieved of his duties, because he really loved it, but he knew it was a difficult period.
Couldn't see the modern day manager these days making a loan like that to a football club, could you?
No, I wouldn't have thought so. They'll have multi-millions in their bank accounts as well, by the way.
Steve Bruce might have to get his hand in his pocket this summer. We're waiting to see. We might see him busking outside Phoenix League. Last thing, obviously, I want to talk about Newcastle Blue Star. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Dunstan. I'm on Dunstan's committee, but you're now new role at Newcastle Blue Star. I know you were out and about on Saturday, mate, and I know Neil Mitchell, the Geordie dentist on Friday's show, continues to get your shirt sales up by giving it a bit of a plug and a bit of promo. So yeah, just let us know what was up, what was going on at the club. Did you have a game at the weekend?
Yeah, well, I mean, the promos with regards to shirts, Steve, is phenomenal. So I appreciate all that. We've sold over 550 replica shirts already. I think the Newcastle fans from the 80s and 90s are buzzing. It's the old retro shirts. So that's a fantastic turnaround so far. And I was down at the club both Saturday and Sunday watching in the morning and in the early afternoon watching the youngsters, various different teams play. And then on Saturday afternoon, the first team had their first pre-season friendly behind closed doors. Lost the concert eventually 3-2, but played extremely well. Kenny Wharton, the manager, he changed the team completely at half-time, but there was, you know, lots of positives to take from the game. And then Sunday was the same. Went down Sunday morning and just got my first glimpse of the youngsters playing. It was great. I went to watch the under-10s play on the 7-a-side pitch, and they had the old grey kit on with the blue star on the front, and it brought back some fantastic memories, and seeing these little youngsters running around and that. So I'm just basically finding my feet at the moment, getting to know everybody, getting to try and see as many as the teams playing or training, and getting to know them. And then eventually I'll be putting some training sessions on for various different teams and putting some sessions on for the coaches, and basically just continue to try and help you know, the committee and everyone connect with the club to raise funds to back the plans that they've got. They've got some terrific plans, and we're trying to do that.
Brilliant stuff, Lee. Well, we'll keep a check, you know, each week on how things are going at Blue Star, mate. But I'm sure it'll be a big success, mate, with you and Kenny there. And a lot of hard work goes in by a lot of volunteers at that level. And you know,
absolutely,
it's really important that anyone watching as well, if you get the opportunity eventually to go back to football, I'd imagine you're going to get more of a chance to go to watch non-league first and foremost, because of the attendances being smaller. So, you know, get along to see Lee at Blue Star. But don't forget, if you live in Gateshead, keep an eye on Dunstan as well. Get yourself along. But Lee, as always, great to speak to you, mate. I know it's been slightly different this week. Got you on a different day, but we're both busy, and we'll look forward to getting you on at some point again next week, mate, to talk football.
Cheers, Steve. All the best.
Bye-bye, mate.